Afternoon, everyone. So we are here with the Gauntlet finals list that just came out today. 10 teams, as we talked about in the last video. Um, we have 4 rounds. It's 40-20. We decided to keep 40-20 because there's 4 rounds, only 10 teams, so we think it's going to be enough of a differential by the end to decide the winner. We'll try 45-15 in the open bracket just to see what happens. We did random maps. We started from scratch. Even though we had flags and in the last one, and we didn't get breakthrough again in either one. And it sucks. I understand it, but to know something's coming is a little annoying for list building purposes. So, it's life, right? They'll live with it. And then the maps they're not really random, but they're a little random. Nonetheless, it's about the list. So I have the new list here. I have the old list. If we do want to refer back to them, I'm not going to go back and look at everybody's small changes. I believe this Empire list slightly changed, but it is what it is. There are some people who change rosters completely. So the Black Bulls. This is actually our first round opponent. So this is. I know Roger. I know he plays Thomas a lot in person. I know these are some of the better Black Bulls players, for sure. So this is definitely a solid team to start with. Let's see what we got. We got a Locket, Adept on an engine. Interesting. Big unit. I know a little bit about Empire. I mainly know it from Conrad's list because I've seen that one played a lot, whether it's Conrad or people trying Conrad's list. So as far as on paper, is this list really good? Is it, I don't know. It has a lot of infantry. It has a stank, which is never bad, and a cannon. You're never going to complain about having those two in a list. Maybe you can say that, there's no artificer. It's not that fast of a list, right? It's core. It's all infantry except for the steam tank and the riders, and then the 2 battle wagons. Maybe it relies a lot on just very strong blocks with supporting units. I know he's a good player. I know that, so that's always going to be something. I don't know. I'm actually curious to see this list in action. I didn't pay much attention to the Black Bulls when they were playing in the first couple rounds. Obviously, there's 40 teams, so I can't watch every single game. I just never happened to catch Gilliam playing. Roger, so I played Roger in the Ocho? No, in Cinco de Wingo. Good player, nice guy. He's running a Scourge this time. He pretty much always plays demons. So he has an Omen. So he's gone a different route than normal, where I think he likes to take a Div Master a lot, actually, as opposed to the Thom Master or even Double Master. And it's interesting also that he takes Thom on his Scourge and not Evo. Not in a bad way, but it's just something you don't see as often. He also doesn't have the armor on him. That's interesting. He's a lot of points. Living Shield, Whip Crack Tail. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the armor would be better than the +1 to hit. He has rerolls to hit with one of the div spells. Honestly, if he took Adept Vivo, he'd have rerolls to hit as well. Double rerolls to hit. May not need the lightning reflexes. The Omen is pretty fighty, and he can hide in a unit. 20 Myrmidons. I really like Myrmidons in Demons. I think the Lemmer core, besides that, I think it's going to go up in the next patch. I just think it's fine, but it doesn't kill anything. Having a core unit that just can kill things is really helpful. Adds another unit that does stuff. 10 Lemmers is always good for scoring, holding the Omen if needed. I think it might go in the Myrmidons even. 10 Imps is fine. Another spell. A big Hope Harvester, so he has he has 2 big demons. He can hide behind it if needed. 2 Glories, 1 Engine, Sirens. Sirens are the new hotness. You see them all the time now. I don't think there's any question in my mind that they're better than Furies, and just because for 195, they're probably too cheap, to be completely honest with you. Probably a little too cheap. Given 195 for a super fast, fearless unit that can still flee. I'm not here to talk about demons being overpowered or not. You got 5 good single models, or 4 good, 5 with the chariot, and yeah, I don't know. It's a good demon list. It's demons. He has a scourge. Let's see if the scourge does scourge things. Um, ID. Unfortunately, I don't know a ton about Empire and I don't know a ton about ID, so I feel like my commentary on these lists are not going to be the best. I'm trying to learn about ID. I know they're going to change soon. Obviously, the new uh, updates are going to come out, and they are in beta, so they will probably have more changes than all the other ones. Just have list changes. So he's Adept Alchemy. So, oh, this guy. That's right. He's playing. We're scrimming the Black Bulls. The USA team is, and he's in it. So I've seen this list before. At least I think it's almost the same. Double Adept. It's very interesting. These both two armies are going double adept, and one is master adept, but is actually almost light for demons in a sense. So they're not spending too much points on magic. Vassals are the new thing. I did a comparison, I think, to Forest Goblins, and for 40 Forest Goblins with Flaming Banner and 40 Vassals with Flaming Banner, it's like 65 more points for Forest Goblins. And while Forest Goblins probably are, I've talked about this before, they're really nice. I think it's good. He's got Disciples, Torque Anointed. He's not even that shooty, honestly. Like, I thought he'd be... Yeah, he's a combat army. Not much magic. Like, enough magic to where, the Adept of Alchemy pairs well with the Flaming Standards. Witchcraft to whatever he needs it for. I don't know what he takes it for. I mean, obviously, Raven's Wing... Deceptive Glamour is probably really good on this army. Wheel turns, I think he's taking wheels turns. This is his big thing, right? You put 39 Vassal Levies into something and you 5 dice of wheels turns, and all of a sudden you can one-shot a Great Green Idol, for example. Rock Crusher is no joke. Infernal Engine, Titan Mortars. So he takes 2 Titan Mortars, and he has a lot of big boys. A lot of big boys here. Yeah, I mean... They're pretty fighty. I kind of like this guy's not as fighty as the others, but I mean they're coming at you to get points. I'm curious to see how they do. I know they're pretty solid players. I looked at their results. Can't hate on them. They're probably a wild card team for sure. And we'll see how they do against us first round. Then we have the French Flanders. Somehow these guys got in. It doesn't look like he changed his list at all. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. It looks he still has the same global. He's still fucking VS. No one cares, right? Machinists, Disciples. He looks unique because he takes globe launchers, but everything else is what. And granted, like this is like semi-unique, I guess. No one really takes this that much, but then it's if you were to turn this into 2 wheels or a cannon and something else, it would look like a lot of the other type of lists. So I don't know. I'm not scared of this team. Merlin. Huntsman list. Ooh, that's at least cool. A dragon. A druid on a dragon. Is this different? I don't even know. I didn't follow this team in the last round either. Yeah, there we go. Look. He used to be this shooty, stupid bullshit, and he went, I'm going to be a man this time and take this hail shot. Interesting. A good prince, a dragon, hey, I mean, that dragon could die, but it's a druidism. Can't hate on that. BSB Blade Dancer. Big Blade Dancer unit. I mean, this is coming to fight. I appreciate this. He took out all that damn shoe and he said, I'm going to go try to kill people. All right, respect to him. Jaina. I think his list is very similar to before. Didn't look like he changed it. Yeah, he didn't change shit. I mean, 4 chariots, sirens, glory. Too big. It's whatever. I'm not giving him any more time than demons deserve in this case. I do appreciate this guy. I hope this guy does well. I don't give a fuck about the demons. Again, I like the guys and I do talk to them, and they're not a favorite to win this. I think we'll see what they do, and no one got to this final by being bad, right? So that's the one interesting slash fun part about the Gauntlet finals is there is no, you know, you get 4 rounds and they should all be competitive. Even if it's a cap, it's still, you can always cap in 3 games. It's still competitive games where everybody's game should be, to a pretty high level. And we talked about how with 3-man teams and a concentration of good teams, you're going to get a lot more quality games where, if these were 8-man teams, the 4 best on one team could play the 4 worst on the others. And let's be fair, anything we saw from Ocho, there are very disparities even at the top teams of like the best players versus the worst players. And, you could go, your team could win an 8-man team event and you just play garbage people the whole time. And I think here, you're going to see a lot more quality games. So I'm really excited for that. So no matter what, even the team that comes in last, all it means is you came in last in a really competitive group. So I'm excited for that. Fresh Flash, the Czech, right? Or Czech. This Griffin guy's interesting. I think he changed his list. Yeah, he used to have. So he had 3 Sphinx, and he dropped them for some Tomb Reapers. He had Cataphracts before. What do you add? He's a Div Master. He put a Pharaoh on foot. Maybe he bumped up his. He have a big. I don't remember if he had a huge spear unit before. He had to, right? Because he had core. Where did his points come from? I guess the Reapers are 2 Sphinx, and then the Scorpions are 2 Sphinx. I think he had 5 Tomb Cataphracts before. He must have saw all the div magic from before and was like, fuck that. I'm not doing this anymore. Which is probably smart. I think there are still 7 div casters, masters in this event, including himself. So I don't hate that. I don't know how this is going to do. I don't know. The Sphinx are sometimes scarier to me than maybe the Reapers are. Reapers are super good, don't get me wrong, but like the Sphinx are so skewy, and single models with Resilient 8 is pretty good. This maybe this lacks some pushing power. I don't know. I'm saying that as if I know anything about whether this should be good. This is just me talking from what I know. Tobias Anthrax seems to have the same list as before. Doesn't look any different. It's not that far off from ours, actually. Well, it is, because he is. So ours is, this would be a Chimera, and this would be Feldrakes, like 3 Feldrakes, and that's pretty much the only difference. Yes, we have a slightly different core setup where we have 3 scoring, and 2 Hound units. But really, it's actually super close to our list. You'll see when we get there. He's a good player. I've liked how he's played it. He lost to Bobo, but that happens. And it was a game that didn't matter either for him. So he could go aggressive. It's a tough Warriors list. This list is probably going to be going up in points in the update, I imagine. So, play it while you can, I guess, is that's what we're doing. Bernie, weakest player in this event by far. I'm just joking. I actually don't know that, but you never know. He's Skaven. Yeah, fuck Skaven, right? Come on. 2 cannons, 5 Giselles. He's definitely anti-single models. He'll be an annoyance for sure to pair against, just because Dreadmill, 2 cannons, Div Magic. It's like, ugh. I could see it having some issues. Maybe, I wonder how he'll do. I don't know how this list does in scoring. Obviously, 3 of your scoring are footpads, and I guess you can hide them. Yeah, I guess it does fine. It just doesn't have that. Like, it feels like a lot on paper, and then you see it on the board. It's actually very small, because, like, these are not big. Like, these are the only things that are really bulky in the army. I didn't watch many of his games either, so I'm not sure how he will do. He's been playing Vermins for a little bit. I don't know if he's a Vermin player, though. But, again, yeah, I think the first 3 teams are all wild cards. Not clear favorites to win. And there is my team. So here I am. So I have changed my orc list a good bit. I was a little discouraged after the first rounds, and to be fair, I only really played. I always played last, and in the first round, I said I couldn't play, or my opponent couldn't play, so I took a 10-10. And then the second round, I needed like 5 points, but I just went ham and won. And then the last round I needed like 4 points, and I tried and got 7, and it was close. And I guess I was a little down on my list because, I've talked about it like, oh my god, my spiders just get picked out. I have nowhere to hide my warlord, which was intentional. We knew that when we made the list. We had mounted Ed Bashers in it, and then we removed them. And I was like, man, my fucking spiders just died so much. I don't want to take them anymore. Blah blah blah. And I talked to, and Thomas basically said, the spiders still are very hard to kill for their points. And I think, and he's like, I think they're still really good. I think you should take them. And I had a lot of negatives about my list, and he was basically like, listen, I think he basically kept saying, I still think it's good. I still think you should take it. And, I don't know if, quote unquote, that meant a lot to me. But it did mean, I did appreciate it. It made me stick with it because obviously I'm still running a very similar list. So my hero setup, and I can maybe spend a little bit more time on my list because, first what happened was I talked to Thomas and I was like, I kind of went through all what I liked and didn't like. And then we said, let's keep it kind of the same. Let's keep trying it. You didn't do bad with it. I've played the list 5 or 6 times and my worst was the 7. And not any, but so like it's not like it was always on paper that I was scared. I was like, what if they have this and they kill me? This magic is so good for me. But in the game, like sometimes the spells don't kill your goblin, and then it's like, then he kills something, and then at the end he's like 315 points, and you're like, okay, well that's not so bad. So, I think what we did here, and so what happened? What happened was I got on a call with Heinrich, the German, who's a friend, and he said, okay, let's build this orc list together. Let's really, look at all the pieces. And I knew what the outline was that I wanted because it was obviously based on my original list. And then we started cutting things and changing things and saying, well, do I need this? Do I need this? And how to fill in those gaps. So as you can see, I kept the Omen of Apocalypse Lord. I actually really liked him. I thought he was super powerful. He did have a little bit of unfortunate in my last game, the way he died. But besides that, like just his threat, like he just can just walk up to a monster and clock his head off. I really like and he's fast, obviously fast enough being a single model. I kept the Thawm Mage again. I was a little off of him after the grounds, and it's not that he did bad. He just, I guess, and again, Thomas, the voice of reason sometimes is just like you can't expect him to be. He's not a sentinel. He's a 400-point caster. He was 500 in my last list, but that's because I took the Vanguard item on him and not somebody else. He's like, you spent 415 points in casting. It's only going to do so much, You're not going to blow the world up with 400 points, but the idea is, the breath weapons are still good. Hand of Heavens can still be threatening. You can still throw comments if you need to. And you got an H spell and pretty good buffs. So don't be so hard on yourself because it's not like ruining the world. You're not spending that many points on it. And I was like, okay, that's fair. And he's like, if you're going to go single master in this type of environment, you should probably go Thawm. And I was like, that's fair as well. I don't want to go solo shamanism right now. All right, great. He's still in the list. Boom. Those two are set. Goblin King, Dustforge 1. Really like this setup on him. I think he's just 1-up rerollable save. He has 5 strength, 5 AP 3. He's 3+ save versus flaming, 345 points. Very good damage output. Very hard, very annoying to kill. It just kind of does his thing. And then we had the second Goblin King. And here's where hero points became an issue. So I only had like 90 hero points left in my last list. And so one thing we decided was let's take the Great Green Idol BSB and let's make it a normal BSB. Because one, you kind of have to play a little safer with the Great Green Idol BSB. And it kind of takes away from him being like this annoying Res 8 monster. Because if I lose a Great Green Idol, it's 365. He probably took a lot of hits. He might have had a chance to crush deck somebody. But when he's your BSB and he's 655 points to die, it's like losing 2 Great Green Idols. So he's like, let's take that off. All right, I'm like, that sounds good. Let's take it off. And now we so for 215 points, we get this BSB. So what's the advantage of him? One, he takes the crown of the Cavern King, so I still get the 18-inch BSB. It takes that item off my mage, so it kind of utilizes it a little bit better because now my mage, I get the 18. I get the maximum use from it. And so The downside is now it's on a 2 wound goblin, but it's not that big a deal, honestly, because if you take snipe spells, one, he's going to be far back and probably behind things, and two, like you have a lot of shit coming at you that if you're throwing like most snipes are too far away. Like the best one versus him is Touch the Reaper, which I can stop if it's in range. You know, if you do pop 1 wound on him early with a hasten, you might only have one turn to like do it before like my army's on you and then you just die, or I stop the spell, right? So we'll see. I mean, still Evo is still good versus my army because I have no save on any of my 4 heroes other than my Lord, but it's I have 5 heroes, no 4 beside my Lord, but you know, you just kind of accept it and say I have a bunch of targets, deal with it. And again, 18 inches, perfect. And it actually has some synergy with the core, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And it frees up the Great Grey Idol. So I had to drop some points from my second Goblin King. And we said, okay, well, he had a 1-up save with a 4-up regen. And, you know, it's fine, but people aren't shooting cannons at him, right? They're shooting cannons at everything. Like, 4-up regen is great versus RBTs. It's great versus cannons. It's great for some of the snipes. And at some point, it's like, okay, it's a 4-up save on a 3-wound model for 100 points. It's a lot of points to take that item. And I had to cheapen him. So I'm like, okay, let's just go to a 1-up save versus non-magical. So he's a little bit easier to kill, but he's also 45 points cheaper than my last version. Now, advantages he has is now he's a Dragonfire Bane Gem, so he's not like... Quicksilver Lash is really popular, right? A lot of Empire can take it. A lot of people take Alchemy at Depths. A lot of people have Alchemy Masters. I actually don't know how many have it here. You know, every mocked fucking BSB has it. And now that spell is much worse versus my army because I have a 3-up ward save on one. I have a 2-up ward save on the other. My Orc Whirler can hide in units. And so not having to stop... Like in my last game, I kept having to stop that spell with all my dice because... it would just one-shot, potentially, a very good chance to one-shot my Goblin King with it was 365. And now I still get the 1-up save in combat, and the nice thing is I have 5 Shield Breaker attacks, and I still got the Troll FS, so I'm still a pretty legit threat versus 1-up save heroes, given that I probably have a 1-up save versus a lot of them. And he's cheaper. He's more expendable this way. So I'm really liking this this hero setup, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on this. I probably should just did another video on it. But I'm already too deep into it now. I'm just going to finish it off. Core, a big Feral Warrior unit, great. We have a Goblin unit with 3 Mad Gets. Decided to go down to 1 unit instead of 2 because it's hard to babysit 2 leadership-wise. And it's just, you know, if you're going to Relentless one and do something with it, it's a little bit easier to do it with a big unit. It's a more sturdy scoring unit. I then went to 24 Goblins with Standard of Discipline. They're skirmishing, so I had a decision to make with Heinrich. Do they skirmish or do they not skirmish? And it was his idea to skirmish them. And we talked about it and we said, well, one good part about them being skirmishers is I have a lot of lateral movement. You know, if somebody... I have 8 inches to get away from people, potentially. My BSB has a lot more left to right movement if I really need to get him in somewhere for leadership purposes. And honestly, you know, it's one less scoring unit, but... it's only like half a scoring unit is what we determined because, you know, it's great. It's in flags, you don't want it, so that's fine. In hold the ground, it could help in the middle, but you are going to have other units in the middle. It's just like in spoils and maybe secure, it's okay. It's just like there's always going to be around the rest of your army, and it's not going to be like it's not getting across the board and breakthrough, which is there. And it's probably not helping you in King of the Hill that much. So the maneuverability, and it's stubborn in wood, so that could come up, right? And you get Banner Discipline, and that's why the BSB being on foot is so nice, because now that unit doesn't need General's Leadership for, like, panic checks. So now we're down to, right now, just the Goblin does need the General's Leadership. Orcs kind of do for Frenzy checks, and now we're going to the Mounted Ed Bashers, which kind of need it, but, you know, it's a cheap unit, 340 points. We ended up going... Shields just to have 4-up save and, you know, strength 6 on the charge is pretty nice. But, you know, paired weapons are also pretty good. Paired weapons is probably better with maybe shamanism magic, while here, you know, I don't know. Strength 6 is just nice. We like it. It's a place for the Lord to go if I need to hide from cannons and stuff. Something we didn't have before, but and we said, oh, you can just hide them behind giants or idols, and it's like I don't know, something about putting your general who is very aggressive behind a large monster that's like base is 4 inches wide. He just gets so far back that it's kind of annoying. Then we put in 3 chariots. We dropped the chaff unit. We have 1 chaff unit, 3 chariots. This is an iffy one for me. I like the idea of them. They do need general's leadership potentially, but they are cheap. So if they do die, it's not the end of the world. But they also pose this 9 inch threat of just like if they hit 3d6 plus 3 impact hits, just go for it, right? Just put it in, and maybe they just do damage and then die and cause a ruckus. Who knows? I was running 2 with 2 mages in other lists, which is like a 600 point unit, so 300 points, that's good. And then we just dropped the giants with 2 idols because it just in the amount of shooting in some of these lists, the giants die very quickly. They're still pretty good, but idols just have this resilience 8 that is just very annoying for most armies to deal with. It takes a lot of spells that's very good versus this army and nullifies them, right? Like Grave Calls is still pretty good against the goblin heroes if they're out and about, but it's not as good as like Grave Calling a giant, or Hellfire isn't as good against a Great Green Idol, or all those magic missiles. Pyro isn't like gonna kill this army as it would. Maybe the giants would just die really quick. So anyway, that's my list. Woo! I'm excited to play it. Thomas went to Furion's list from his dragon list, partly because we just felt it was the better high elf list for the meta than what we were seeing. He went through all the lists that people took in the last event, and he walked through them and said, you know what, Alex and team, I think Furion's list is the best one. It's just a very solid list. It doesn't care about cannons as much as the other one does. It's just, he plays it too. He played a tournament like a week or two ago and did great with it. So, it's hard not to love having this list on your team. It's very, very good versus demons. There's a lot of demons in this event, and it's just kind of like go out there and kill people, man. Just fuck them up. So that's the hope for this list, and it's Thomas, right? Kiriel, so Warriors Dark Gods, very similar to the list we had before. I'm pretty sure all he did was take his master mage on foot and put him on a sorcerer on a chariot with binding scroll, which Thomas and I love this build. I know Anthrax is using the same build. It's definitely become more popular lately. And he had too much magic before. He had a level 4, an exalted, and a shrine. And it's just like you don't need 8 spells with this list. I did this list without the shrine and was fine if you take the right spells. It's an aggressive Warriors list. Let's just go, right? So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for our team. I like our lists. I think they're better than our last batch of lists. And, we can still compete with these guys out here. Los Panos de Casas. This was the Miguel army. I don't even know what it means. But so he did change his army. So this is one of the first people to actually change what they're actually playing, like their book. He was the high elf guy, and I don't think he did that good. I think he mentioned to me that he wasn't doing that well on his high elves. And so I don't know what he actually plays. I don't know if he is a UD player or not. But, hey, we got a UD army with Ushabdi, Frax. These guys are so annoying. Tomb Reapers, a little bit of everything, right? Big-ass unit. Evo Master, Div Adept. Yeah, this big Spearman unit with like a character or two to give them things is pretty popular nowadays. I don't know what Book of the Dead does, actually. But I don't know. It's like a solid, like, a little bit of everything type UD list. I'm curious to see how these UD lists do, because they haven't been performing overly well in general in the last couple of events we've been running. But people still bring them, and this is similar to the style people have been bringing, where it's kind of like some combination of specials that are, whether it's usually fighty-ish, whether it's a giant or something, and then, some good magic and some big skeletons. So chariots seem to not be as popular anymore. Miguel, his list looks the same. This guy scored a lot of points. I'm really excited to watch him. I hear he's really good. I think they're playing the Polish team, so that should be some really good games. I do not know. I don't think he changed anything, so I mean, a binding scroll, div master. We've been seeing that. 2 hunting chariots. He probably likes pretty big monsters, especially dread judges are pretty good as well. Strength 6, right? And then Yema's. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this guy does. And this is another. This is the same Saurian Ancients list that was before. Protean Slan. Yeah, you go, man. I mean, I don't have too much commentary. It's just I'm really gonna focus more on watching this team. I think, see if they hold up in the against the big teams that they're gonna be in against, because they did avoid. I think they avoided Poland for sure. So I'm curious. Are they contenders, or are they got through? Because they avoided Poland and the other team, the Bobo's team. New team. All right. Ivan took a skirt. I don't know if he had one last time. Don't remember. Ooh, okay, so now we have a little bit of changing here. So we have a Miser, which you don't see very often. So he's going a bunch of I think he's been running Adepts mainly. He hasn't been running as many Masters for whatever reason. So no Chariots in this list. Again, I really like the big Myrmidons. Scoring could be an issue. His scoring is a Myrmidon unit and 2 Imp units, which are not exactly the pinnacle of holding ground, right? So maybe the list requires a lot of like just killing people, and it's just score. They can't score if they're dead, is a good way to put it. But given that we have a flags, spoils, and whole secure, I'm curious how if he feels like it makes a difference after the fact. But otherwise, I mean, can you hate on a bunch of fast single things? I mean, the sirens are really good. Yeah, another 2 scourges so far. We'll see. I think there's 3 in this whole thing, because I know one. So we added a scourge. I think it was him. Somebody didn't have a scourge before, but added one. I'm thinking MSU dwarves. Yeah, fuck dwarves, right? It's so interesting. So what does he not have that he doesn't take? Oh, he doesn't take any copters, and I don't know if that's actually bad. Maybe it's pretty good just to have more like units on the ground. These units are very fighty. He either shoots or he like fights pretty well, and 2 cannons is never going to be bad in this meta. Yeah, fuck dwarves. And then Dave's taking his usual Vermin Swarm list that he's been taking for a bunch of tournaments. I mean, it's not too much to say about it. We'll see if people can deal with the giant rat units. Man, it's crazy. Like this, like I'm pretty sure 40 Force Goblins are like as many points as this. And he gets like 20 more models. It's crazy how many more models he gets. There's some downsides, of course. He doesn't have poison, blah, blah, blah. Just attack with 1 million attacks and kill him that way. And then you have Plague Disciples. So, yeah, we'll see how this does. Yeah, I mean, these are good lists. They're unique. So, Pukekos. This is the team that I gave a lot of shit to. Another army change. Tom was playing UD before. I don't think it did very well. And I see he has now switched to Saurian. Okay, very interesting thing to start off with. A very cheap. Is that how much a Slan costs? Who else is playing Slan? This guy, right? Is he playing a Slan? How much does Slan cost? Hold on. No, it's not Black Bulls. This guy is. Okay, his is 870. Okay, so he takes a very cheap Slan with just Pyro. And he takes a Shamanism Apprentice with a Skink Paliquin. Does he get another spell for that? He might. I forget how that works. And then he takes 3 Captains. Is this a Skink Star? Is this a motherfucking Skink Star unit? It kind of looks like it, right? With these 2. Though that's... Okay. Okay. It's 2 Stigs. 2 Sword. I hate this. I'm going to change it myself. I hate when it's not in order. Where you have like, where it's not like, yeah. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. this a real list? Is this real life? I. All right, Tom. Show me what you got, brother. Let's see if he. I don't think he changed his list. It looks the same. It's the same, isn't it? Yeah, it's the same. All right. Nope. No, he changed something. Something is different. He has. Oh, he has a knight. He has 2 griffins now. Look at that. Look at that. Still the same fucking shooting. Yep. Don't care. Did he change his list? This looks. No, this is the same shit, right? No, he changed it. He had 2 chariots before. What did he put in? So he's 3 shrines? That seems overkill. Maybe it's really good versus demons, and that's why he did it. It just really slows down his army, in my opinion. Yeah, so he lost 2 chariots for 2 shrines? I don't know. It just kind of slows down your army a little bit, right? I don't know. I love that change. I'm curious how this Kingstar does. This team. I don't know. We'll see if my prediction of they can't win big enough continues on. Russian hackers. Guys who beat us in the last round. So first off, we have a slight change here. He drops... The dancers were Tower Guard. He drops the Tower Guard for Ravencloaks and dancers. A little more shooting. I think maybe he didn't like having such an expensive fighty unit because people just avoided it. It seemed like a lot of the games. And dancers aren't bad to put your cult priest into. Yeah, it's a solid list. Constantine took the same thing. It's Furion's High Elves, except this would be a Phoenix and another Seaguard Reaper. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. I mean, if you look at Thomas's list, I think he takes Moonlight Arrows. Thomas takes MR4. That's the only difference in heroes. This is the same. This is the same. Pretty sure that's the same. He has 2 more Line Guard. So it's 2 Line Guard, and this is... a Phoenix and another Reaper. Interesting. Still a good list. Still has all the key pieces you need, and these are annoying little chaff pieces, which are interesting. Goo. So Goo has changed his list. He had a Scourge before, so he's one of the people that went the opposite, where maybe he said, there's too much divination in this tournament, and I don't want to take the Scourge into it. And so he said, I'm going to take the Scourge out, and he's going to put in a Sentinel and make his own damn divination mage. So he has 2 masters in this, one being a Sentinel and one being a Deceiver. And I guess this helps him. He's probably pretty helped in the Demon Mirror now, especially if they have Scourges, because now he has the Blowflies on Hinging Jaw and a Div Mage, which is pretty legit in that setup. We see, he has no glory this time, but he does have, the Siren units you're always going to have in. Mage Replican Gremlins are good. A big Succubi unit instead of the big Myrmidon unit, but maybe with this Deceiver with Piercing Spike, it might just be better in that case. Now they have AP2, and they have a ton of attack, so I can see that being good. And Chilling Yawn means they're probably going to strike first. Goo's a really good player, so I like his list. I think it's unique. He's still rocking the Deceiver. We'll see if the changes work out for him, and if dropping the Scourge for better magic, but also I guess he gets more units out of it. He gets the flies essentially. Will increase his odds versus in the meta. 3 men and a baby. Looks like the same list he took before. I do think it's interesting to have 2 Frost Phoenix with Warden's Bond, Cosmo Master. I mean, he still has the Sea Guard. He still has the Sea Guard Reapers. He's still just as shooty as the Fury on the list. He takes magic that is still very good magic. In fact, he has a Master Mage which is it's interesting if you compare the Master Mage, right? So he's essentially plus 2 spells for 75 points. He's plus 2 spells, plus 1 to cast all the time, versus the other setup, which is plus 2 to cast once and 2 less spells. So it's kind of interesting what's worth it, what's not. Oh, he loses. No, he still has. He doesn't have the Griffin. That's that's the big thing he loses out on, right? So he has no Griffin, but he gains Swordmasters. I don't know. It seems like it's shooty. It's high elves. It's probably good versus demons. It has a lot of the same shit. Interesting. Keith did not change his list. It looks like another Scourge. Oh yeah, a lot of these Scourges aren't taking Kaleidoscopic Flesh. Maybe that'll be a downfall. Maybe that won't be. There is a lot of cannon, so it kind of does help if you have it. This is the Thom guy we talk about. I'm not a huge Vapors fan myself, but I'm not hating on that. 5 scoring, fine. 2 Threshers, no 5 Sirens without Champion is a little odd given the Math Thaumaturgy guy. It's a Scourge list. It'll be okay. I think there's a lot of anti-Scourge in the top team, so that's going to be something to kind of dance around. I don't think he had to deal with that in his group so much. I think he had a good matchup versus. He didn't play one game. He had a good match versus the Saurians. Had nothing to answer, and then he was in a demon off that he won. So, it'll be more of a test this time for sure of this particular build. It's has some things you see a lot, and it has maybe no one really plays Hoarders anymore. Not that I think they're bad. And then some big threshing engines. And then we have Caps, who added a cannon to his list. Has 3 giants. Is that different than what he was bringing before? 2 hunters. Yeah, he dropped a hunter to actually make his hunters good. So this is more of a standard list that he still has a bus, but he doesn't have to put his characters in it. And he gets some extra scoring in the special slot in these 2. Okay. Yeah, it's still very good ogre list. We'll see if he remembers how to play them. Yeah, they have high elves, ogres, and demons. Nothing really bad to say. Semi-unique lists in a sense. This is Infurion's list. This has a couple weirder units than maybe the standard Scourge list, which would have probably glories to help back him up and be extra single models. And then you have Caps' list, which probably, this is probably would normally be something different. All right, Poland, let's see what they did. So another army switcher, Shino, is now taking Warriors, which he was playing in most of the other tournaments. I think that was his first time with the new Demon Book in a while. I told him he should go back too. So I think it's good for him to go back to Warriors. I think he was a better Warriors player, and his build is pretty solid. And he likes the more. He still takes the Elders, but instead of the Herald build and Chimeras, he likes the Chariot Lord and a Burning Porting guy in a unit, and then he takes a Wizard Master with Alchemy. So we actually haven't seen many Alchemy mages, at least master-wise, so I wonder if that'll come in handy for him or not. Yeah, it's a solid Warriors list. It's a lot harder to get points off of double Battle Shrine. I know the one guy had 3 Battle Shrines, and he only has 2, but you probably don't need 3 Battle Shrines. 2 is good. It's actually pretty good versus demons, so maybe that 3 Battle Shrine guy will play a bunch of demons and just wreck them that way. But this list is pretty tough to go into because not only do you have this super Chariot Lord and Portent guy, but you have 2 Elders, and then to back it all up, he has really good magic with Ledger of Soul, Wizard Master Alchemy, and 2 Shrines to kind of just it can probably take a lot of matchups, and it doesn't push as hard as the Herald list did, but it can hold its own versus a lot of it. So, is this different than before? I can't tell if it's different or not. Let's look. Yes, it is different. So he dropped some archers, added some Kestrel Knights, some Force Guard, and he went double. He had Cosmo Druidism, and now he has double Master Druidism Shamanism. I don't even know how he did before. So I have no idea how he's going to do now. It is a fun little list. It's nice to see the two Sylvan Elf lists not be that shooty Pathfinder Sentinel crap. Not that I think it's bad, but it's just nice not to see it. Yeah, I don't know how this will do. And then we have Stanislaw, who it's the same list. It looks like it's the same list he took before. Hopefully, his BSB doesn't run off the board turn 1 or turn 2. But I mean, it's a tough list to crack, and he didn't get his ambushing love. I guess if I had to say something about their team, like maybe a negative, is it feels a little bit like, they lack range pressure. I mean, their best range army is the Warriors list with an Alchemy Mage and no shooting, right? So I guess you can say double Druidism Shamanism guy is pretty annoying because the Shamanism Master. I mean, they have 2 lists with Druidism Shamanism Masters, so that can be really annoying if you're like a shooty list and you don't want to play against Master Shamanism. But he doesn't have much shooting. He doesn't actually have that much long range damage potential. I mean, their long range damage potential as an army, as a core, is like a Veilwalker Alchemy Master, which, I mean, it's fine, I guess, but like a lot of people are taking shooting, and maybe if push comes to shove, they'll have a little more trouble pressing on people. But at the same time, if you look at my list and Kyriel's, we don't have as much. Well, we have 2 armies with comets too. They don't have any army with comets, so maybe we have the advantage there where we can like sit back and drop comets potentially. But it's an interesting set of builds. I mean, the Warriors can go aggressive too, and if in the right matchup, you can just push a bunch of big blocks at people. So it is nice to see. I don't know if any team has the same. I don't think any team has the same 3 armies as each other. Like, everyone has like something slightly different. Yeah, because I'm the only orc player. There's 3 warriors. How many? There's still 3 demons. I think there's still 6 demons. 1, 2. Yeah, because there's people who changed. There's only a couple people who changed. But yeah, that's me just going through all of the lists. I actually don't know who's going to win. I don't think you can tell with just lists in these events. I think there's too many good players, and like, you just got to play the game. Like, it's too hard to analyze, like, oh my god, this team's definitely going to beat this team, or these armies are good versus this. It's just like a lot of good armies, a lot of good players, 4 rounds, and let's see what happens. There's only so many games that are played, but my theme for this event will probably be, how do the Scourges do? Because I think there's 4 of them now, right? There's Black Bulls has a Scourge. They do not have a Scourge. We do not have a Scourge. They don't have a Scourge. New team has a Scourge. They don't have a Scourge. No, maybe there's only 3 Scourges now. There's only 3 Scourges now. How do the Scourges do? And have the Divination Mages sort of... Are they going to change the tide of how these games look? Or do the Scourges still go well? And, there's a lot more High Elves, too, on top of that. So, like, if you say that High Elves are good versus demons, and so is, I don't know, somebody with... Like, Russian Hackers is a good example, right? They have a Div army with a lot of shooting. They have a Seaguard army with a lot of shooting. No Div. But, though, this guy's pretty good, too. And they have a demon army that has divination. So double div and a high elf army. Like, it feels like it's just asking for demons to be like, oh, fuck. Like, there's no, like, I want this one type thing. So, and they are playing this team first. So I'm curious how that goes. And we'll see. We'll start it off early. And, if you lose the first round, you're not out yet. You got 4 rounds. And, yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.